We start off with psychology of the patient, picking the right patients. We start out with treatment planning and CBCT and what a proper all-on-4 setup looks like. And they're just like, 3 or 4 hours into it, they're like, I had no idea that it was this in-depth. We've got to break them down and indoctrinate them into the world of full arch.
What I've seen is these doctors end up getting the case, they get into it, they find out, oh man, this is way different than what I thought. They end up getting somebody to come in and help them with it. And it scares them because it's scary, right? Like you got in too deep.
I was going nuts trying to run a general practice and a full arch practice. I don't think there's any way for one man to do it, even for a small team to do it. You've got to pick and choose. Which battle are you going to fight? Are you going to stay general or are you going to go full arch?
Welcome back to another episode of the Full Arch Advantage podcast. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the owner of SMC National, where we help offices just like yours level the playing field against the big guys out there so you can grow the way that you want. And today we have a special guest, Dr. Adam Hogan, who is a practicing dentist at the Full Implant Choice practice out in Virginia. And he also has an institute. And he's going to share how he has been doing over 20 arches a month and how he scaled his GP practice and the different levels of GP practices that are out there when they're adding full arch. He's a wealth of knowledge. I learned so much from this. It's too much to share just with you right here in the introduction. I promise you just want to stay tuned because this is a value-packed episode. All right, we are live here with another episode of the Full Arch Advantage podcast. And today I have Dr. Adam Hogan. And as you can see, that is not a green screen behind him. That is not a fake backdrop there. He's at his institute. And he told me today, hey, Gary, I want to hop on the podcast with you today after I'm done with all of our surgeries. So not only is Dr. Hogan placing implants, but he's also teaching other doctors. So this is going to be a great episode. So I would love to start with your story. Like, how did you end up here? How did you end up with so much cool stuff around full arch? You've probably noticed this before, but this podcast is unsponsored. What that means is we don't get paid to do it, but we want to bring you the best information possible. So how do we make sure that this content stays on the air? We need you to like and subscribe. Wherever you're at, whatever you're listening on, just give us a thumbs up or subscribe. And that helps us out so much. I know that you probably haven't done it. So I'm just going to sit here and wait until you do. 95% of our listeners have not subscribed to our podcast. So go ahead and do it now. Don't make this awkward. All right, good. Back to the show.
Well, we do only have an hour, right, Gary? So I'm going to have to really give you the short version. I am a dentist by accident. We'll go back to the story later. But I am absolutely a dentist by accident. I didn't grow up, since I was 3 or 5 years old, like wanting to stick my hands in people's faces. This came along by, gratuitous nature, just by luck of the draw. And I've been in practice about 22 years in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I run what's called Full Implant Choice right now, which is a full arch implant only practice in Virginia Beach. I wasn't always just into implants only. I started out as a general practitioner that was heavy into prosthetics and implants from the get-go. And I came to this institute because, I don't know, people have been telling me all along the way, I should teach, you should teach, you should teach. You're pretty good at this. And I really enjoy sharing knowledge and intellect. So about 2.5 years ago, we built the Atlantic Implant Institute, which I'm sitting in today to speak with you.
That's so cool. That's an awesome story. So tell me a little bit about your growth story. Like at what point did you say, hey, I can build an institute now? Because you have to be doing a pretty steady number of patients to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that you should probably have a little bit of experience before teaching. It's funny because I'm sitting in this institute and I've had numerous young kids just a few years out of dental school come and say that they're going to open an institute like 3 to 5 years out, which is great. But I'm always like, hold the brake. Let's find out what you don't know yet. It's been about 20 plus 20 years when people really started coming to me and saying, hey, you really should reach out and teach what you know. Because you've got something special going on here in Virginia Beach. So, we just, we were having people into the office routinely from all around the country to watch, and they're crammed over my shoulder looking in, cubicles. And, there wasn't a lot of didactic instruction at the time, but really good discussions. And I wanted the opportunity to bring this to doctors more formally because I realized that they really need to know the ABCs of how to do dental implants and specifically full arch dentistry. So yeah, we built a curriculum. We built different weekends, different modules to get people from A to Z throughout the process.
So one thing that you said is that, and I agree with you, is like when the idea for a general dentist is like, I'm going to start doing full arch and I'm going to dive into this, they're excited. Like there's a fire underneath them. But a lot of times that fire is there because they don't realize how much work is actually ahead of them. And a lot of people fail to get to where they want to actually go. So what have you seen from your experience on that side of the coin of people being really excited, but not understanding the full scope?
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of everything, as you can imagine. I mean, I go back to when I took my Maxi course back in 2006, 2007, and we were at Medical College of Georgia Maxi course. There was probably 40 or 50 dentists in the room. And I keep in touch with a lot of these dentists today. And I look around and I realize that only probably 5 of the 50 of us are really engaged in dental implants on a daily basis, right? And
Wow.
I think that there's something to be said. And then, another 20 or 30% are dabbling in it. And if I talk to some of these doctors, 30% of them never really got involved. And a lot of that, I think, is due to the follow-up process after. I mean, here at the Institute, I sort of see similar numbers. Everybody comes in really excited to do it. And then when they learn how much work it's going to take, that kind of a few people kind of trickle out of the process, out of the game. And some people will go home and stick with it. But I think one of the factors that keeps the numbers higher with our alumni is just the ongoing mentorship and the encouragement. So when they leave here, they become all part of the full arch addicts or the all on 4 core groups where, they get to reach back and talk to us and we get to encourage them along the way. But like you said, it takes a lot of work, when they leave here. Coming here, getting the knowledge is just the base, right? And then they've got to go home and implement it. And the implementation is where the work really begins.
So what can people do to really prepare around growth? So obviously, well, let me ask you this. When these dentists, you told me a funny story, I think before, right as we hit record, you're like, yeah, this doctor came and said he was going to take the course and then open an implant center himself, which is comical. But I understand that a lot of times we just don't know what we don't know, right? And I can think of plenty of examples of me doing similar things like that, right? Just not knowing how complicated things are going to be as I jump into them. So when dentists are first coming to you, what are their initial goals? There are a lot of them like, I want to do 5 arches a month, 10 arches a month. What are their initial goals that you're seeing as they start to come in?
Well, I think the most common is people that are looking to start their first arch, 1 arch a month or get from 1 to 5 arches a month. I mean, that's where most, of the dentists are in this world. I mean, let's face it. It is a labor intensive game and it just doesn't come overnight. I mean, it comes with experience and hard work. So a lot of beginners out there. I think of the 200,000 dentists that there are out there in this country, 200,000 plus, I mean, it's estimated that about only 2,000 of them are really engaged in full arch, and maybe another 10 or 20,000 are really eager to learn. So it's a very small sample. And I think that number is growing, which is great for the public. I mean, we need more full arch doctors that know how to do it and can do it safely. So yeah, it's a lot of it is just getting you into the game so you understand how to do this dentistry safely and appropriately, successfully. And let's put successfully, at the head. I mean, this isn't just all about like dollars and cents. This is about doing the procedure correct the first time so that you've got satisfied patients and, you've got repeat business and you build your practice and your reputation on a solid foundation and you get off to a good start. So that's where I see the bulk of people coming in. It's, hey, I've seen a few arches done. I've maybe tried 10 or 20. It's not going exactly perfectly and I need some help.
Got it. And then so that 1 to 5 range, and then what after that somebody gets clinically dialed in with you guys and they come to your institute, they learn the clinical things like that. How long is it until they actually get to those goals? Typically, the ones that actually follow through with it.
Yeah, I get this question all the time. Like, it sounds like the question, hey, if I come to your course, will I be proficient in this on Monday morning? So can I do this on Monday morning? That's a loaded question because I don't know your experience level and your comfort level coming in. I don't know.
100%.
I don't know with no surgical experience at all, or you used to
general,
do.
let's use the average person that's coming through. Because what I want to paint a realistic picture, right? And I know you do too, is like, what is the picture that most dentists have in their brain is not reality when it comes to full arch. So let's do our best to like try to tell them what reality looks like on the average person. Now, some people are more clinically inclined, they're better, and some have more experience and some have less, and I get that. But just like the average person coming through your courses that you would see.
Well, I mean, I absolutely guarantee that they're going to have a thorough understanding of the process and how to do it. Right. So, I mean, we're very thorough. And, we're so thorough. We started out with a 3-day program that now is like 6 3-day programs. Right. Like,
Yeah.
Because the questions you get they keep, compounding and, delving into new subjects. So now you've got fundamentals and we've got pros and digital workflow and atrophic arch and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's some other ones. But, each weekend is designed to get you, to the next step ahead. Fully proficient in everything that you learned, at least fully knowledgeable. Proficiency comes with some degree of experience and repetition, of course, that you can't replace real world experience. But we definitely have a great curriculum to make you fully understand the procedure and how to do it.
Okay, so how long until people, after they take your curriculum, so they understand it, you guys do a great job, you teach them, what is the average dentist actually looking at in the timetable from your experience until they get to their goals of 1 to 5 arches a month consistently?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen doctors do it right away. I got a text today, a doctor just took my advanced prosthetics course, and he just texted me pictures. It's on my Instagram on the stories of the first smile that he did. And he said, thank you so much. I mean, I've done this in the past without these results. This was my first attempt at making this patient some teeth. And I mean, it looked beautiful. You can look at my Instagram stories at the Atlantic Implant Institute.
That's awesome.
But, people are able to implement it right away. I've had people come and do digital workflow. Many people come and do digital workflow. And on Monday morning, they're doing complete digital workflow. So it's not if the doctor is motivated and has the drive and wants to put in the effort, I mean, they're doing these things on Monday morning. No problem at all.
That's awesome. And so what are, is that a lot of people fall into that category, would you say? Or is that like an outlier, like somebody's doing it that fast? From the people I talk to, so I'll use average people that I'm talking to. There's quite a long build-up period because you're dealing with not only the clinical side, but you're also dealing with massive operational issues that you got to overhaul. And then you have massive, and then you got to learn marketing on top of that, right? And that all of those things, when you combine them all together, that's a long process to learn those things, to be even just decent at them.
Yeah. I'm going to divide our alumni and our doctors into probably 2 categories. One is beginner and one is intermediate advanced, right? Anybody who comes in with a little bit of full arch experience who takes an intermediate or advanced level class, such as like prosthetics or digital workflow and, remote acreage. Mm-hmm. These doctors are doing the work the very next week, right? They've already got the systems in place to be a full arch treatment center. They're just looking to get to the next level. So they're a beginner. They're well established. They want to get to the next level. They come and take a weekend course, and they are instantly implementing these procedures. I would say 80% of them. Great implementation. But if you go back to the beginner, the people that are looking to get into the full arch field, one, they're taking core fundamentals class. They're taking the very basic all-on-4 class, like how to full arch. And I'll tell you, it blows their mind. I mean, it's a 3-day course, and I look around the room like 3 hours into it, and they're just like stunned.
What are they most stunned about? Like, what are the things that are like they're looking at going, oh man, I've jumped into the deep end?
Well, I mean, we start off with psychology of the patient, picking the right patients. We start out with treatment planning and CBCT and what a proper all-on-4 setup looks like. And they're just like, 3 or 4 hours into it, they're like, I had no idea that it was this in depth, right? And they still have 2.5 more days of it. So, I mean, we're giving them a full education, and they better come in rested and sit down and be prepared for it. But it completely blows their mind. And then, so they have to rethink everything they know about dentistry and implants and prosthetic dentistry. Like It's like we've got to break them down and indoctrinate them into the world of full arch. And so there's this mental switch that has to occur, that they're ready to accept the change and become indoctrinated to full arch. And then the business aspect of it, many of these beginners, they come in with either a general dental practice, which, let's face it, the general dental practice is not fit for full arch workflow.
Yep.
Or they come in with a surgery minded practice, a surgeon that, shucks thirds and places a few implants. And that also is not built for full arch workflow.
Yep.
Even if they understand the procedure well through fundamentals, they have to go home and they have to do a complete practice management switch. They've got to revamp their entire operations. And so because of that, I was getting so many business related questions in clinical classes that we felt it necessary to create a business class dedicated to full arch.
That's awesome. Let's talk about that workflow a little bit, because I think that's really confuses dentists. And I'll give you my point of view, and then I would love your thoughts and tie in some of your courses that you're doing around this. Is what I see is like dentists, typically a GP practice, have, they want to add some kind of new clinical something that they want to do, and they go do a course, they come home, they practice some, they get a couple existing patients. All right, cool. Now we're going to add in a little bit of marketing in there and train the team a little bit, and they're off to the races, right? And it's been largely, that's what they've done for most of the procedures that they've added to their practice. And sure, there's rough spots here or there, but they smooth them over pretty quickly. When you get into full arch, what I've seen is these doctors end up getting the case, they get into it, they find out, oh man, this is way different than what I thought. They end up getting somebody to come in and help them with it. And it scares them because it's scary, right? Like you got in too deep. And again, I'm not a clinician, so I don't fully understand the clinical side, but this is what I've observed from the outside in. I actually had a client that we drove a bunch of, this is very early on before I knew what I was doing for these dentists. We drove a bunch of leads. We helped train their front desk to get the leads in. They had several people accept treatment and they just couldn't fulfill it. They were literally flying in docs to do procedures and stuff. I mean, it turned into a poop storm because not only were they not making money, they were losing money because of what they were having to do just to get those cases done, fulfilled. And so could you talk a little bit about that workflow from your point of view and how you help people with that?
Yeah, I feel really qualified to answer that question because I had a general practice for a lot of years. And, general practice, by that, I mean, we did, crowns every day. Sometimes I treated a few kids every day, we had a hygiene program, all that stuff. And God forbid we were replacing amalgams at one time, and composite restorations, the world's most expensive temporary filling material. And, we were doing all that general stuff. I was also like doing over dentures on implants and dentures, high-end dentures and placing implants. And so I had this practice where it was a concierge practice. I mean, it was just me. I was producing almost $2 million a year. And I had every year for like a decade, $2 million, just under 2 million. Like it was just me, all me by myself. And I was capped, like I couldn't do any more. And I was seeing, what are you seeing? 30, 40 patients a day. And you're busy, you're working really hard for that. I mean, it's a blue collar job, but you're working hard. And then if you try to throw a full arch into that schedule, right? And you've got a sedation going on and you're in that surgery room for like 4 hours and there's a hygienist at the door going, hey, can I get a hygiene check? Hey, your crown's here early. Can I numb him up? And they'll wait for you for 2 hours. Hey, there's a kid in the back room needs an amalgam in number 14 occlusal and they're getting a little restless. And you're looking down at a full arch, like a surgery flapped wide open, like a whole mandible maxilla. And you're like an hour and a half from being done. I mean, dude, there's no way. Like, it's just, there's no way that's going to work. I mean, and then talk about the pros. Like, you got to know what you're doing prosthetically with these patients, or it becomes umpteen, literally like 12, 15 appointments over a year to get halfway there. So, and these pros appointments, they take time if you don't know what you're doing, a lot of time. I mean, we've got ways to streamline this in digital workflow we could talk about later, but like I was going nuts trying to run a general practice and a full arch practice. I don't think there's any way for one man to do it, even for a small team to do it. You've got to pick and choose. Which battle are you going to fight? Are you going to stay general or are you going to go full arch? So, I don't know how you got started on this question, but I think, the premise of it is that when you want to go full arch, you need to dedicate yourself to full arch, at least on that day of the week or whenever it is. You got to dedicate yourself.
Yeah, it's a lot more to bite off than people expect. So you mentioned earlier, you said there was the different tiers, and I love the way you broke that down. So if you're a beginner, you're just coming in and you're just having your mind blown because you're going to learn some stuff that you just simply don't understand, and that's going to help you gauge where to go next. But if you're already a beginner and you're placing implants and then you want to go to the mid-level, then you're going to be able to take the information and run with it much faster because you already have things in place. You have infrastructure in place, so to speak, in the practice and skill-wise to be able to move really, really fast. But then you said that there's kind of like a level above that. What is that crowd? What is the level above the mid-level, and how are you seeing dentists kind of move to that level?
You're talking about more like the advanced level, like the very proficient level?
Yeah.
Many of these doctors, they struggle. Well, clinically, they might need to work on things like remote anchorage, or they might need to work on like advanced prosthetic principles. Maybe they're very well trained in surgery. They got to learn pros, so we get a lot of that. Surgeons come through our pros program, but that's on the clinical side. But I think the biggest obstacle that people have is in business and marketing. So this probably speaks to what you do, having you on here, but it's like doctors know how to do full arch and they know how to do it correctly and they're pretty good at it, but they don't know how to, structure their business around it. They don't know how to market, go after, they don't know how to deal with leads. They don't know the whole funnel system, how to deal with leads and sales and closing and, moving them on into surgery. And that becomes a big challenge. I think a lot of dentists, just through the selection process in dental school, was not built around business-minded people. I mean, and in general, historically, the business word or the sales word has been a word in dentistry for 100 years. Like,
it was literally illegal. Yeah, you couldn't put like certain size fonts on your card, and marketing was illegal. It was literally against the law.
Literally, it was against the law. I mean, when I came into Virginia, I had to defend like numerous anonymous board complaints, like he advertising illegally, signed nobody, anonymous, and I'd have to defend these issues in the early 2000s. Worse for my predecessor, my mentor, through the 70s, 80s, and 90s when he was advertising. But literally, all you could do was hang a shingle.
Yeah.
And God forbid we recommend to somebody what's best for them. It's like we have to give them all the choices and let them choose, as if we're just dumb back here and we don't know better. So, dentistry's come a long way. I think it has a long way to go, but most dentists are not very good business minded. I mean, for example, when I taught the business course the first time, I didn't realize I'd be handling so many questions on P&Ls, profit and loss, statements and expense reports. I mean, like my second time I had to do a business course, I literally wrote in 2 more hours of education on standard P&Ls and expense reports and how to run, what reports to run in your office. I assumed that everybody knew that.
Yeah. So that's the biggest jump. So you see from the mid-level to the expert is more on the business side, and you guys actually go into P&Ls and those kind of things. What are some other things that are in your business course?
There's some really good instruction and discussions we have on teamwork and culture and how to build the perfect schedule. Classes that I wrote that I thought at the time were sort of like extra or because I feel like everybody wants to learn marketing. Like that's all they ask when they come in.
Yeah, of course.
But
the fun thing, the fun stuff, right?
Oh, they all come up with how much money do I have to spend to get one patient, and where do I put it? Like there's some magic number. But I started teaching these classes on culture and building the perfect schedule. Like literally, what do your columns look like? Where are the patients from the days of the week? If you want to do 5 arches, 10 arches, 20 arches, like how does it look? What people are in place to help support you to do that? What kind of digital equipment is there? Like those kind of classes and instruction. I mean, people really took away, the most impactful type of information. Like they didn't even expect that.
That's awesome.